In a major breakthrough for international diplomacy, US President Donald Trump and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen have announced a new trade agreement, signaling a significant step forward in transatlantic relations. This agreement has averted what many feared would become a damaging transatlantic trade war, which could have had far-reaching consequences for the global economy. After days of tense negotiations in Scotland, both sides finally reached a deal that promises not only stability and predictability, but also renewed trust between two of the world's largest and most influential economies. The agreement replaces Trump's previously threatened 30% blanket tariff on European goods with a more structured and transparent framework, easing widespread fears of economic fallout and market instability. U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick had earlier warned that the odds of reaching a deal were slim, highlighting just how high the stakes were for both sides and how much was riding on these negotiations. The EU, meanwhile, had prepared tough countermeasures, including retaliatory tariffs and legal challenges, underscoring the gravity and urgency of the situation as both sides braced for potential escalation. The deal, reached just before a critical midnight deadline, is being hailed as a crucial compromise. It addresses U.S. concerns over trade imbalances and unfair practices, while sparing the EU from crippling tariffs that could have hurt industries and jobs across Europe. It's a diplomatic and economic achievement, providing a new framework to balance American and European interests, and setting a positive tone for future cooperation on trade, technology, and security. While the long-term effects of this agreement remain to be seen, the immediate result is clear: the prevention of a costly economic conflict, renewed confidence in global markets, and a sense of relief among businesses on both sides of the Atlantic. Both leaders have called the agreement a victory for diplomacy and common sense, setting the stage for a new chapter in US-EU relations and opening the door to further collaboration. The world is watching closely as this new era of cooperation begins, with hopes that it will inspire similar breakthroughs in other areas of international relations and global trade. At the heart of the newly forged US-EU trade agreement lies a pivotal change. A 15% baseline tariff now applies to most European goods entering the United States. This marks a significant shift in the way transatlantic trade will operate moving forward, impacting a wide range of industries from automobiles to luxury goods and agricultural products. This 15% rate is a carefully negotiated middle ground, striking a balance between the previous, much lower tariffs and the 30% rate that was threatened by the Trump administration. The compromise reflects months of intense discussions and high-stakes diplomacy. While the new tariff is certainly higher than what European exporters have been used to, it represents a substantial reduction from what could have been a far more punishing scenario. This adjustment fundamentally alters the landscape for transatlantic trade, providing a sense of stability and predictability for businesses on both sides of the Atlantic. In exchange for this tariff arrangement, the European Union has made a key commitment to significantly increase its purchases of American energy, including liquefied natural gas and oil. This move is designed to strengthen energy ties and reduce Europe's dependence on other suppliers. Additionally, the EU has pledged to invest heavily in the US economy, channeling funds into American manufacturing, infrastructure, and technology sectors. These investments are expected to create thousands of new jobs, stimulate economic growth, and foster innovation across the country. These commitments are not just symbolic, they are central pillars of the deal and represent a major victory for the U.S. negotiating team, who worked tirelessly to secure favorable terms. To ensure that both sides uphold their promises, the agreement includes a powerful snapback clause. If the EU fails to meet its obligations, whether in energy purchases or investment, the United States has the authority to immediately reinstate higher tariffs, serving as a strong deterrent against non-compliance. This robust enforcement mechanism gives the U.S. significant leverage and underscores the conditional, performance-based nature of the deal. It sends a clear message that accountability is built into every aspect of the agreement. The combination of the 15% tariff and the EU's binding commitments forms the foundation of a new, more reciprocal partnership, one that aims to be fairer and more balanced for both parties. The safeguard clause acts as a kind of insurance policy, ensuring that both sides have strong incentives to stick to the agreed terms and maintain trust throughout the duration of the deal. Together, These elements not only resolve the immediate trade crisis but also set a clear blueprint for future engagement, cooperation, and conflict resolution between the US and the EU. It's a careful balance of compromise and self-interest, designed to stabilize one of the world's most vital trade corridors and ensure continued prosperity for both economies. Ultimately, this deal reflects the new realities of global economic policy, where flexibility, enforcement, and mutual benefit are more important than ever before. The newly imposed 15% tariff will have far-reaching consequences across a range of sectors, with pharmaceuticals being one of the most affected. European medicines and medical equipment, which have long been staples in American hospitals and pharmacies, will now become significantly more expensive for US buyers. This change is expected to ripple through the entire healthcare system, from large hospital networks to small clinics and individual patients. American consumers and healthcare providers should brace for price adjustments as supply chains are forced to adapt. Pharmacies may need to seek alternative suppliers, and some treatments could become less accessible or more costly, impacting patient care and insurance premiums. In contrast, the US steel industry is receiving robust protection. European steel exports to the US now face a steep 50% tariff, making them far less competitive in the American market. This shields American producers from foreign competition, but it also makes it nearly impossible for European steelmakers to maintain their presence in the US market, threatening jobs and production overseas. However, this protection comes at a cost. American industries that rely on specialized European steel, such as automotive, aerospace, and construction, will now face higher input costs, potentially leading to increased prices for finished goods and slower innovation. The US energy sector, on the other hand, emerges as a clear winner. With the EU pledging to purchase billions more in American oil and natural gas, US energy producers are poised for a significant boost in exports and revenue. This surge in demand will likely create new jobs, drive fresh investment in infrastructure, and help reduce the long-standing US trade deficit with Europe, strengthening the American energy industry's global position. Ultimately, the deal creates both winners and losers. While American steel and energy sectors stand to benefit, US consumers and industries dependent on European imports will face higher costs, and some may struggle to find suitable alternatives. European exporters, meanwhile, must absorb the new 15% tariff, and their steel industry faces a harsh new reality of diminished access to the lucrative US market, putting pressure on jobs and economic stability. The agreement fundamentally redraws the competitive landscape for key industries on both sides of the Atlantic, forcing companies to rethink strategies and supply chains. It's a complex mix of opportunity and challenge, with each sector weighing the risks and rewards of the new trade environment. The ripple effects of these changes will be felt for years to come, shaping the future of global trade and industry. Across Europe, relief greeted the deal. Leaders and businesses welcomed the end of a looming trade war. While the agreement restores stability, European officials like Germany's Friedrich Merz and Italy's Giorgia Meloni stress the need to scrutinize the details. The new 15% tariff is a hurdle, requiring companies to adapt quickly. The mood is one of guarded approval. The crisis is averted, but higher trade barriers are now a reality. European leaders see the deal as the lesser of two evils, trading certainty for increased costs. The focus now shifts to implementation and adaptation as Europe navigates this new economic landscape. The agreement followed intense, often deadlocked talks, with agriculture and market access as major sticking points. The EU was ready to retaliate with measures targeting US companies, raising the stakes. Even with the deal, tensions remain, especially the 50% tariff on European steel, which European producers see as punitive. This issue could spark future disputes and remains a sore spot in the otherwise comprehensive agreement. Other unresolved challenges, like Northern Ireland's unique status, require further clarification. The deal settles the broad conflict but leaves pockets of friction that will need ongoing management. The path forward will demand continued dialogue and compromise. The US-EU deal sends shockwaves through the global trading system, signaling a shift in how major economies resolve disputes. By averting a trade war, the agreement calms markets and shows that negotiation can prevail over escalation. The 15% baseline tariff marks a clear break from decades of lowering trade barriers, setting a new precedent. This could usher in a more transactional, unpredictable era in global trade, with tariffs as primary negotiating tools. Other nations will watch closely, wondering if this model will shape future trade rules and institutions. The deal could stabilize global commerce, or normalize a more aggressive, tariff-driven approach. Its true impact will unfold as other countries respond. The US-EU trade pact leaves post-Brexit UK in a tough spot. Outside the deal, British industries like steel face the same steep US tariffs as the EU, but without any negotiated protections. Northern Ireland's unique status, aligned with the EU for goods but part of the UK, creates uncertainty over how the new tariffs will apply. This could lead to logistical and economic headaches, complicating an already sensitive situation. The deal highlights the UK's need to secure its own trade agreement with the US to avoid being outmaneuvered by EU rivals. Pressure is mounting on the UK government to act quickly. The agreement underscores the challenges and opportunities facing Britain as an independent trading nation. The UK is now on the outside looking in, with its economic fortunes tied to how it navigates this new landscape. The stakes for both Great Britain and Northern Ireland have never been clearer. Global markets are expected to rally on news of the US-EU trade deal, as the threat of a trade war fades. The agreement restores business confidence and provides a predictable framework for transatlantic trade. Companies can now plan investments and supply chains with greater certainty. While challenges like steel tariffs remain, the core economic relationship is reinforced. The EU's commitment to buy more American energy and invest in the US will be closely watched. The US retains the right to reimpose tariffs if commitments aren't met, ensuring ongoing vigilance. Investors welcome the shift from crisis to conditional cooperation, but will monitor compliance. For now, a major risk to the global economy has been neutralized, opening the door to renewed growth. With the deal signed, attention turns to implementation and accountability. The EU's promises on energy purchases and investment are central, and the US will monitor progress closely. The snapback clause allows the US to raise tariffs if the EU falls short, making ongoing dialogue essential. Both sides must work to uphold the spirit and letter of the agreement. This framework could pave the way for broader cooperation on issues like AI, cybersecurity, and global standards. The deal is a starting point, not a final destination. Its durability will be tested by unresolved issues and future disputes. The world will be watching to see if this marks a lasting truce or just a temporary pause in transatlantic tensions.